There we go.
You telling. I totally agree with you on that. I definitely agree with that. But if one of you could explain to me in the comment section about my lower back and how this could have happened and why my lower back is so tight and some of the things that I can do to loosen it up, I will greatly appreciate that advice.
Okay, well, I know that you don't like me right now, in part, I know you don't watch my fucking videos. I know Shandy didn't watch the one that she freaked out about, the one that you referenced earlier in this video, in which you said that she was defending you from someone, when she actually wasn't. She didn't watch that video to get the context, nor did you when you responded with, "Oh, really?" But nonetheless, this isn't about that. This is about your back. You blew a disc. I know what that's like. I blew one back around about 2001. And I've been in back pains ever since. It's something that's just lingered and stayed with me. It's always been there. But one of the first things that I learned after blowing, actually, I think it was technically a compressed disc, um, and there's some spinal degradation that goes along with that, deterioration rather. And I've had back problems ever since. But one of the key things that I learned is that when your back tightens up like that, it'll often, the greater amount of tightness will be on the side that isn't actually dealing with the injury, and it's because you've been compensating for where the injury is. So the pain's all here, so because of that, you're basically putting more pressure on the other side of your back and utilizing those muscles more. So what you need to do is, in order to loosen up the tensor muscles, that will ease the muscles on the opposite side to a degree. And what you need to do is try to get a balance between the two of them. Now, light massaging and this and that can help to a degree. Very light stretching can help. Now, you want to make sure that you don't do anything that's overly intensive. Now, mind you, I'm somebody that's dealt with back pain. I'm not somebody that's a doctor or physical therapist or what have you. So, of course, if you do have somebody working in that role, lean on them first, because they're going to know a hell of a lot more than I do and a hell of a lot better. But the one thing that people tend to miss when they're dealing with these things is the fact that what will happen is you will favor that other side of your back. So the part side, so to speak, that isn't as severely injured, or where the injury isn't, will end up being tenser than it should be, because you're tightening up those muscles trying to compensate. Oh, what else are you going to say anyway?
I don't care who gives it. I will listen. So you guys have a good night.
Also, things like very slowly rotating your torso a little bit in here and there, and don't overwork it. You have to really pay attention to your body when it says it's feeling that strain. But in terms of actually loosening up those muscles, things like the muscle relaxers will help. But at the same point, don't rely on them too heavily, because if you rely too heavily on the medication, you're more likely to actually hurt yourself more or put more strain on it, because you just can't feel the pain that's associated.
And Shandy for Christ again. Love you, sis, for standing up for me, and for the rest of the brothers and sisters in Christ, standing up for me as well. I give you guys thanks. Thank you.
Well, that's just the thing, G-Man. And I tried explaining this to Shani when I responded to her video, as well as did a actual response video to her, because she never actually listened to the video that she was defending you in, or from rather, because the point I was making was that I'd been calling you to repent. I'd been calling you to try to amend your ways. And you weren't listening. You wouldn't actually watch the videos. One of you watched all 15 minutes worth of, made a bunch of assumptions that were wrong, I might add, and then just blew it off completely and never actually went back and listened to see what was actually being said. There are some pointers in there as for your technique as well, mostly due to a story that Drag told about Smitty, quite honestly. But this is the thing, is you don't listen. And I've reached out to you, a bunch of other people have reached out to you saying, if you're going to be trying to show the fruits of being a Christian, you should learn to try to show some degree of love, some degree of compassion, some caring towards your fellows. And that was kind of at the heart of the whole thing. And it's funny, because I even referenced in that second video, there was a video that was shared at the end of it that was made by Inventor Gorilla. You'll remember him. He passed away not too long ago, in which he actually referenced that whole trial nonsense in the Triple R gang, and was encouraging Christians to, learn to love and accept each other, and had a very powerful message, which I think could have done you a lot of good if you'd actually bothered to watch that whole video that I was calling out too. Now, the whole thing celebrating G-Man in the hospital, the point I was making is, much as you saying you better, when I said that I was probably going to be going back in the hospital very soon, which incidentally I did. I was in all weekend. I went in round about, I think it was real early, like 2, 3 a.m. on Friday morning. I was in all weekend, another stroke. But when I mentioned that I expected that I'd be going back in fairly soon, your comment was, then you better get right with Jesus because the Reaper's coming for you soon, which is, to say the least, kind of a shit thing to say to somebody. So, in honor to kind of showcase that a little bit and poke a little bit of fun at certain Christian beliefs, because when an atheist is ill or taken sick, what will happen is they'll say it's because God's trying to tell them something, they need to get right with God, but they never seem to apply that to Christians, like in your case, for example. Now, there have been a lot of Christians, atheists, etc., saying, you know, a lot of what you're doing right now, we feel is harmful to Christianity. We feel it's harmful to, well, the Christ movement, we'll call it. And that's been falling on deaf ears. Well, if it's going to be argued that an atheist going into a hospital is going in there because God's trying to tell them something, wouldn't that apply to you? And potentially God thumped you in the back to kind of give you a wake-up call and say, okay, buddy, you need a little bit of help. You need to start listening. And that's what that video was about. It wasn't actually celebrating you being in the hospital. For that matter, the one time that somebody actually said something really disparaging, I said, no, 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 I really do hope he gets better. Back problems suck. Now, the title was indeed partially clickbait. But the shame is that the people that needed to click on it, somebody like Shani and potentially yourself, didn't. They didn't actually listen to it. They saw the title and freaked out. The video was, in part, you could say it goes back to Job and that whole thing of not sitting there and assuming because things aren't going well in somebody's life or there's something wrong with what's going on with somebody that they shouldn't have all their friends running around and judging them for this. In addition to that, if God might be visiting some kind of judgment of sorts onto an atheist saying you need to amend your ways, that this should be applied in equal quantity to Christians. And that was really the point of the video. It really had very little to do with you. Although I was a little bit annoyed, I admit, over that whole "the Reaper's coming for you soon" comment. But that isn't really what it was about. It was about this particular consistency within Christendom, and yes, I use you as an example because, frankly, the two of us both being hospitalized around about the same time, that was something I couldn't resist but to exploit. Anyway, I'm going to stop this here.